long as you keep your mouth shut.
Meeting or each topic?
Well, that's gonna take too long. Half an hour per agenda.
What?
Trial by fire, you know?
No, we're not doing no
Yeah.
9:30.
I get it.
No. Then I'll have to wake Charles up.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Morning comes in.
I know, I'm up.
Flip Sarah an extra 20.
I think it was Corey that was, he seemed to be rushing them along great, the further we got through the agendas. I think he realized.
And the topic of conversation.
I don't have. Kind of gave it a little look over and you said you'd updated some numbers. I didn't look at the first one that much. So yeah.
Half an hour?
Okay.
For the whole thing?
Billions. Like,
Oh, your mouth shut.
Like, yeah, I'll scare 'em off. Like, oh.
So when you get ready to talk, I'm say, oh, no, no.
That's it.
Huh? That's right.
I mean, at least.
Said about Zini was interesting. I didn't realize that it's almost like they operated their own services. Yeah, I just assumed Zini probably all. Yeah, I did too. That was. I thought they were all just one big.
One will come in.
Oh. Gotcha.
I didn't know that. That's all I got so far.
Well.
I know Jim Henderson had his cleared. Someone else said they could hear, or if they had their head down when they were at the school. And I could, if I listen real carefully.
Yeah, the dentist really.
Special people get the front row. So.
They're the people in trouble.
Yeah, the people in trouble, yeah, maybe that. How you guys doing?
Stuart Municipal Utilities meeting to order in the council chambers. Tentative agenda, Thursday, March 12th, 2026, 5:30 PM. Call to order, Sherman?
Here.
Belden?
Here.
Herrick?
Here.
Crawford?
Here.
AB here. Okay, on the agenda, I wanna move 14 up above 12, and it's Holmes Murphy and United Risk. I want to be able to listen to both of them before there's any decisions made. So, agenda approval. Sherman?
Yes.
Oh, we gotta get a motion.
Motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'm trying to hurry, 'cause.
Yeah.
I can second.
Okay.
That's a 30-minute.
Sherman?
Yes.
Belden?
Yeah.
Herrick?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
AB, yes. Case consent agenda. Minutes of regular meeting 2/12/2026 and joint meeting of 2/12/2026. Financial statements as of 2/28/2026 and bills as presented. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
How do you vote? Sherman?
Yes.
Belden?
Yeah.
Herrick?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
AB, yes. Okay, public forum. Okay, no public forum. Okay, number 6, water tower height adjustment project pay estimate number 1. $284,225.52.
So this is the first payment?
Yes, this is pay estimate number 1 for the work they did last fall.
So what work remains?
About $100,000 still, and that is work they need to do in the spring to repaint the tower and do the surface restoration work.
Okay. Ben, any concerns?
Not at all, they've done a good job.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, how do you vote? Sherman?
Yes.
Belden?
Yep.
Herrick?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
AB, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, number 7, water supply and treatment study update forest.
Okay, so thanks to Brian pointing out I had billions in the bottom table.
I'm just like,
That can't be right. So we're off by a factor of 1,000. It had to do with the rate is per 1,000 gallons, and we did divide by 1,000. So here's an updated table.
it didn't help me understand the table anymore. You're gonna have to do-
I'll help with it.
This one?
That is the one I just emailed this afternoon.
Okay.
No, you said you were bringing
Okay.
copies, so I let you do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, updates on some things. First of all, Xenia had several conversations with Xenia, who is now part of Central Iowa Water. So Xenia, that supplies water to the city of Stuart, gets the water from Des Moines. And basically, I talked to Central Iowa Waterworks, and they said, we can talk, but the answer is going to be no, as far as us selling water to them. They said their bylaws actually forbid them from buying water from anybody that's, except for member communities. And so I pressed a little further, talked to Xenia, and I said, well, but you're buying water from other communities, and they said, true, but they actually have, the way they have actually, Xenia split up into like 4, 5 different areas, and each area is kind of its own entity and does their own thing with buying water. So Madrid is in a different zone than the city of Stuart. Stuart is in the Des Moines zone. Menlo, Stuart, the ethanol plant, all are in, and all the way back along Interstate 80 are all in the Des Moines zone, and Xenia's entered into agreement to purchase so much water from Central Iowa Waterworks, and has locked in that, and so they're saying that's not an option. So we could look at other places to sell water, and that may be a possibility. We could look at Menlo, you know, if same deal works for us, it might work for them as well. Of course, they're 10-15% as big as us, so, and we'd have to run a water main out there. Because I'm sure Xenia would not let us commingle the water unless we also sold water to the ethanol plant, which I think that might be a pretty tall order for us to do. Dexter might be a possibility. They have their own water plant. I don't know, I've been in their water plant. It's okay. But I'm not aware of them discussing doing any improvements to it, but that might be a possibility, but we didn't have to run a water main to Dexter, because the water main we have coming this way is unfinished water. We need to run finished water that way. So those are possibilities. I'm not saying that they're out of the realm, but I don't want us to put too much faith into those kinds of things happening. So I want to kind of explain this spreadsheet. I did want to look at this. So first of all, if we are all in doing our own thing, then and highlighted in blue, kind of going through the middle of the table, that's the cost of everything. That's getting our existing Jordan well up and running. That's the wells over by Redfield, getting those a little bit better conditioning, fixing some things on the pipe coming in, new treatment plant, engineering, legal, administrative costs, everything all in is at 13.2. So that is your total project cost. So then we added operation and maintenance in there. You see that 290,000. And so if you take, there's some factors in there, but if you take the 290,000, this is over 20 years, you take that times 20, you add it to the 13.2, that ends up being a present worth of about 21,660,000. So that is, it's doing a present worth analysis, and
Isn't that present value type thing?
it's a, yeah, present value kind of thing. It's taking 20 years worth of O&M over 20 years and combining that as if you put it in the bank
Today's cost,
and you
okay.
put it in the bank today and spread that out over 20 years.
So the 290, is that normalized over the 20 years?
That 290, no, that's year one,
Mhm.
and then it's we took it times an inflation rate to get the present worth.
Okay, so the 290 is added annual overhead cost, is that right?
Yeah, so if you,
Okay, so,
round numbers, you take 300,000 times 20, you get 6 million, you add that to the 13.6, you get close to the 21.
how much is that number today?
That number today is 290,000 for O&M.
No, I'm saying that's if we had our own water plant, right?
Yes, if you have
So
water
what
plant.
is it today
Oh.
buying water from Xenia, just ballpark, is it?
What is it?
Chip? Sorry.
What are we buying it at?
No,
no,
now you're
no,
buying
this
Your
is
average
just-
annual bill.
That's okay.
your O&M costs today, other than buying
What
water.
goes into that?
Oh.
What goes into operations and maintenance? Is it salaries and
Yeah.
repairs and all
Yes,
that stuff?
all that stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
The only reason I ask that is because your annual expenses to Xenia is 425, right? That's the purchase of water, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that budget model has it in it, doesn't it? Chip?
I'm gonna pull up your last you have your last audit on the agenda. That'll
Yeah.
tell you.
Okay.
The revenue and expense page. So the operating expense and then back out, if you're trying to get the difference, just back out the 425,000.
And then 425 is based off of 24 usage and 24 rates, so it's a little off.
I'm not sure. We don't have audits in the packet, right?
Yeah, right here.
No, I mean like the.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 890,000 for water, last 425, so, what is that, 450 or 60?
No, it only,
That
oh,
doesn't
maybe
make
the
sense.
O&M estimates is the increase, is the delta, not the total.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm just saying as we look at this,
Yes.
it's gotta be,
Yes, Yeah, that would be the delta, the increase,
Okay.
because that doesn't make sense that the O&M would go from 450 to 290.
What is
So
ELA?
engineering, legal, and administrative costs.
Okay.
Get the name. Get the name.
Okay. So ballpark, our water fund is about 500 in the positive. So if we're going up 290, that chews up 60% of that number. With Xenia, right? So you, the 425 is what we pay, so then what would the payment be on that?
So the O&M, the 290 would be an increase in O&M for having a new water plant and that kind of thing. Is that what you're asking?
I'm just trying to before we had looked at this, is if we were selling water in order to pay for this, so we didn't have to increase rates, that type of thing. So I'm looking at it from a, what's our new cost? The new 425, is that the bond amount for the 13 million? I mean, you know, it's not gonna be that same number, it'll be a lot higher, I get that, but.
Yes, so your annual expenses that we're looking at, new annual expenses, that $1,075,000.
Okay.
Yes, that would be your new annual expense.
And that includes the 290?
Yes.
Okay.
So if we think Xenia's water rates, so what that table is showing is,
Gotcha, okay.
is if we think that Xenia's water rates increase of
Yeah.
about 5% is break even.
Yeah,
If
gotcha.
Xenia's only increasing, we think their rates are only increase 1-2%, we're better off staying with Xenia. If we think they're gonna be closer to 7-8%, long-term, we're better off, going on our own.
So we just had a rate increase of 5.5%. This is input, this isn't based off of everything, right? This is water costs only?
This is just water.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just water only, it's not
So by the time you get to
power.
5, you're $60,000 annually ahead.
Yes. Now, the latest increase was under 5, it was like 4.75 or something.
That was under, yeah, it was like per 4.5, I was thinking.
Yeah, something like that.
So if you trended this back over 5 to 10 years, I mean.
So that's this table.
Okay.
And the other table I sent, that's that one.
So. And what's Grimes is a part of this new
Yes.
water conglomerate, so that, won't those types of enhancements trickle down to us through overhead costs?
Yeah,
Because
the
we're a
city
part
of
of
Des
it.
Moines has a huge nitrate problem.
Right, so
And,
we're gonna have to pay for it, right?
and you as a customer of the city of Des Moines will have to pay for that. That is correct. And so the water from the Jordan and from the wells out by Redfield do not have any nitrates in them. So the water we would generate would be nitrate free.
So there were other things that Ben's talked about that's in there, and you've mentioned as well, other elements that make that water. We shifted away from the Stuart deal to the Redfield deal to Xenia for reasons of, other elements.
Yeah.
And you neutralize those as
Yeah,
part
so
of
the
that?
treatment plant that the technology's changed a lot in the last 20 years. And so, but the biggest change in technology is using reverse osmosis with the membranes. That has come a long ways in the last 10 years, and so using membranes, you can take all that, the things out of the water, out of the Jordan and out of the alluvial wells that were detrimental 20 years ago when you went with Xenia.
If we went on our own, would we need both the Jordan well and the Redfield wells to do that?
Yes, because our study resulted in looking at the alluvial wells out in Redfield, that those wells are influenced quite a bit by the Raccoon River.
I knew that part, but on the other side, our well we already have isn't enough either, you're saying?
The Jordan well,
Yeah,
we wouldn't,
Good question.
yeah, it's not enough by itself either.
Okay.
So we kinda need
need both, okay.
Now, we could maybe,
The water quality is so poor.
and the water quality's pretty poor with the Jordan. Now, maybe, we could start with one and phase in the other over time. We wouldn't have to go all in with both.
Oh, cause you're saying we would need them both like 20 years from now on your
10
projection?
years from now.
Okay, gotcha.
So the average rate increase, if you map this back, over the 20-year period is 7% to try to tie this out. So that puts you at $350,000 ahead every year
Yeah.
on average over the over the
Yes.
20 years.
Yeah.
Okay, not today.
So along with the inflation that's built in here, should we be thinking about the depreciation of assets over time as well, of having our new plant? As part of our,
Is that part of the O&M?
It's a good question. I didn't dive that deep. I'd start looking at this guy over here for some help on some of that.
You'd wanna think about that. Yeah.
So I mean, are there large capital improvements, to your point, that are having to be replaced over that 20-year period that is 10, 20, 30% of the initial cost?
Yeah.
Membranes don't last forever.
No, membranes don't, but we put some of that, we put those costs in the O&M.
Okay,
okay,
okay.
but maybe bigger overall depreciation might not be included.
Right.
Okay.
Do you mind going through the bottom table?
Yeah, so it's not a billion. So what we did is, it's just kind of, it's kind of the same information that's up above,
Mhm.
but in a different format. So, so what we did is we kind of said, okay, we're gonna break this data up above kind of into spot years, so you can kind of look at it in 5-year increments. So for example, if you look halfway through at the 1%, there's the 736, 624 at 1%. See
Okay.
that number in the middle, top middle of the bottom table?
Mm-hmm.
So that's comparable to the 740,000 in the top. You know, so this number here is the same number as this
Okay.
number comparable.
Gotcha.
And so this is kind of, this is the average, this is, and 2035 is the
Just giving you
average.
Static
Over
view.
So these numbers are pretty comparable, and so it's just kind of seeing how this average actually plays out over 20 years versus just the averages in the top table. So, yeah, if we believe 5%, so the bottom table, what two things are going on? You're needing more water as the city grows, and the rate that you're buying the water is going up. So you got two things going up. And so for example, at 5%, increases in 20 years, that means you're buying water from Xenia at $14.45 per thousand. And in 2035, $8.87. So it kind of, and then there's, you know, you kind of see the amount of water goes up from, you know, 113,588 to 117,749. So it's kind of a, here's what we are projecting for the water usage going up, and here's what we're projecting for the rate that Xenia's going up, so you can kind of break things down further. It's the same information, just shown a different way.
And this treatment plant, so back in the day, everybody had water softeners, or a lot of people did, and so that's what would soften the water. Obviously, you'd have the rock salt or whatever, not rock salt, whatever it was.
The RO system would soften the water.
Everything would be
Yep.
ready to go, Xenia level or higher quality than,
Yep.
okay.
It'd be the same quality as Xenia without the nitrates.
Okay.
It'll be better without the nitrates.
So to me, this chart is the most helpful because it tells you when they started Xenia in 2006, we were paying $1.80 per gallon, is that right? And we're up to 5 cents, so we've gone up 3 times, right?
Yeah.
So over a 20-year period, and it's not, why would it stop or, you know, flatline? We have no control over that,
Correct.
so, anyway.
Yeah, 20 years ago, for softening the water, there weren't a lot of choices, for doing that, where the RO cleans up the water and also softens it.
So is there another community that has similar water content or element content that we could point to say, you know, they've been using this process for a decade or two, that, you know, Winterset you mentioned, I think, put one in, or Bondurant, or both? What's that, Ben?
There's a lot of places.
RO is just everywhere now.
Yeah, it's a pretty common, popular treatment method.
Well, and I know when I was in lived in Granny's Center, they put something in, but that was like 25 years ago. What would that have been? Because they did the same thing. I think we're actually in the Jordan Aquifer up there too, if I remember right, because it runs all the way up there.
I don't know what treatment system they have.
Okay, so I remember them putting that in right before I left, like 98 or 99.
I know, Panora's got lime softening, I know. Yeah, I don't know what they have.
Okay.
But we're doing quite a bit of, everybody seems, like Ben said, everybody's doing this RO now.
So is that the trend, is this kind of this conglomerate water district gets created, more people are splintering off?
Bondurant chose to go do their own thing. They're building a new water plant. Altoona is staying out of it. They have water plants already. They're adding a water plant. They have several. So they're adding to it. Trying to think who, those are the two I'm aware of that are out there going to do Van Meter's going to do their own thing. They're not going to join in.
Okay,
So they're doing their own thing.
interesting.
But Grimes joined,
Yeah,
you
gotcha.
know, so.
Chip, on the revenue bond, is that an even cash flow, or can that fluctuate based on other outstanding balances?
You can tailor it to, if you do SRF, you can tailor it to wrap around existing debt. If you
Okay.
do USDA debt, it's flat, even, can't change it.
And you've got SRF in here, right?
I have SRF in here, yes.
Okay, would the full balance be eligible for that?
Yes.
Okay. So the difference there is 3% versus what, 5 or 4?
I don't know what USDA is.
Oh, USDA.
I can look it up.
Okay. I meant bond market, I meant the
Oh,
revenue.
no.
revenue, yeah.
Yeah,
The bond market would probably be, 4 to 4.25 now.
okay.
There was a time where bond market beat SRF, but
It was.
Gotcha. And the USDA would be in the same ballpark, or?
somewhere in that three,
Okay.
3.5, something, it'd be in the same ballpark as SRF.
That other one with the water mains was 1% or 2%, those days are probably over,
Yeah.
so.
So we have risk levels today if our largest customers, if something happens to them and we don't have that revenue anymore. Would you say that this highly increases or just moderately increases that risk if we're producing our own water and we lose that type of customer?
Yeah, I mean, your risk would be higher because right now you're just buying water from Xenia. And if a customer goes away, you just buy less from Xenia, where
Some of the risk is on them.
some of the risk is on them, where this, you're taking on all that risk.
Wondering if we should try to quantify that at all, if something happened with Rose Acres. and-
Yeah, I mean,
That's
is
the problem with having such a large customer.
that a 25%?
Cause didn't they say something about if we went one way, they,
If we just left water and sent it out there, they said that it didn't work. I mean, it was very,
Right.
and
Just send raw water out there.
yeah, not
They want it
not treated,
okay,
Yeah, if we did that, they would probably go away
they'd be
from
go
us.
away, yeah.
yeah. Well, that's a valid point. And another one, I guess, just to add to, if there's a potential for, another community next to us to supply them water at a reduced cost from what they're paying now, if that would pencil out. I mean, it'd be a question to help mitigate the costs that we would have to incur to make, you take your net present value of 13 or 21, and what does that do based on their consumption? And
We can reach out to Dexter and see what their interest is. I mean, they may be on the verge of, I think they only have one well, don't they?
Yeah, and I just had a long talk with him at this conference the other day. I mean, their supply is good. There's possibilities of selling them water, but it's probably more likely raw water. They could use another raw source. They have Xenia as a backup source currently, so they do have a backup.
Okay.
Now, as far as Menlo,
that's
Menlo
what I
doesn't
thought.
have their own systems.
Yeah.
Menlo is Xenia. Xenia
Right.
just took over their system.
So that's what I was wondering, does Menlo be more viable because, They're on
Xenia
Xenia.
just took it over.
I thought-
It's their system, and you'd be trying to get it from Xenia.
Right.
Yeah, so that's probably not likely. But maybe Dexter.
Why would Xenia not, I mean, if we.
Xenia, Ben's just saying Xenia took over their district.
I thought they had them for a while, no?
It didn't just happen, but
They were selling them water, but you're saying they took over the distribution system.
yeah, Xenia is to my knowledge, Xenia's in control.
Oh, okay.
They don't,
Yeah.
So you're talking about maintenance and everything?
they
the
own
water
it.
lines.
Gotcha,
Yeah, Xenia has the water lines.
gotcha.
Where at Stuart, we have the
Okay.
water lines.
And Dexter like.
And Dexter likewise has the water lines.
Okay.
So we can reach out to Dexter and see what they think. Like I said, I'm not too optimistic, but never know.
So what's everybody else's thoughts on this? I mean, this is a very, very significant type of, change in decision, so.
Got some feasibility with some upside, but, it's also got extra risk associated with it, so, don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is, I don't think it's feasible, for the residents, just continue to do what we do, buy it from Xenia at this point. And now, if they start raising, if the rates start going absurd, and then I think we should, maybe revisit it, so.
I agree with that.
That'd be kind of the thing, maybe you kind of revisit every 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the direction, which is fine, what we'll do is, we'll put this into a final written report form so that, the information is more than just in some tables and handouts and everything. And then we'll give that to the board and to the staff, and then we'll have all that information, so if Xenia comes back next year, 5 years from now, and says rates are going up 10%, we can say,
Yeah.
let's find that thing and see what that looks like.
Charles, you wanna make that a motion so that way we have it in the
Yeah,
minutes?
I'll make a motion to go ahead and table it and, maybe revisit it in a few years, or unless, Xenia rates go up.
Based on rate increases.
Yeah, based on rate increase.
Are you able to speak to that at all, Chip, what you're hearing from, I guess, that water conglomerate on potential expenses? My concern, Charles, is if they plan for this nitrate deal, how long would it take to build a plant? If you got the green light today, is it 2 or 3 years?
Yeah.
I mean, Des Moines already I don't know if it's, the city of Des Moines already has a nitrate removal, and they've been running it.
Right, they're
Yeah.
talking about a huge.
But I'm talking
Yeah.
about
upgrade.
enhancements, like
Right.
completely, like,
But weren't they supposed to be getting some help, some grant money or something to help with that nitrate thing?
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, they're looking at building other plants that don't have nitrates. They're gonna expand the Grimes
Yeah.
plant. They're gonna build a new plant, out by Van Meter somewhere. They're building a new plant up at the north side of, by Sayreville.
Yep.
So they're building more plants so that they're not relying on
River water.
the river water.
Okay.
so then how would that change in distribution from what we get?
It'll lower the nitrates.
It'll lower the
So it'll all just be blended together?
Yeah, it'll
Okay.
just be blended.
There's a potential, what I understand, there's a potential that the rate increase, and I hate to, don't let this set in your mind, but that there's a potential that you'll have lower rate increases in the future, maybe.
That's fair, that's.
So,
That's good.
but
If that's true.
something that's, I think you haven't looked at though, is on the financing aspect. SRF offers loan principal forgiveness.
It does, yes.
So that's really strange how that works. You have to put rate increases in place as though you don't get forgiveness. And then once you do get loan principal forgiveness, say you do a $13 million borrowing, there might be a portion of that could be just forgiven.
I know,
$1 million
but
for
they
this.
won't tell you
They
what
won't tell
that
you.
is or how much it is until you're down the road a long ways.
Already, yeah.
Okay.
So you can't really, it's hard to
No,
bank
that's fine,
on.
it's still good to know.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we got a second?
I'll second.
Keep that.
Okay. How do you vote? Sherman? Yes. Belden?
Yeah.
Harry?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Davy? Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And like I said.
Thanks for all the work you did for us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Still very valuable information,
Yes,
because it
very.
allows us to be nimble in the future if we need to be, so.
Okay. Number 8, consideration and discussion of proposed financial advisory service agreement with PFM Financial Advisors, CHIP.
Good evening. So I've got a very rough draft. I'm not asking any approval tonight. I think we just wanted to talk through potential work tasks that you may want us to be engaged to work on. I know the analysis for the electric substation is one. If you do get to a point as a board where you want to see analysis for your water plant, would work with Forrest on that. I think Brian had some other, do you have other items that you
I
wanted us
don't
to?
remember what they were at this time. I mean, yeah, it is.
There
Do you
was
remember?
involvement with the certified site.
Oh, yeah, right.
There was, if you have any.
So the
this
reason,
is
I
just
asked,
a
I asked
rough
Chip,
framework.
I asked Chip to provide this, to give Sarah a go-to as needed, for financing questions, budget questions, audit questions, I don't know. But it at least gives her, we've done this before, and it gives her a contact as well. And then he's gonna have, like you said, some work with that substation and other things along the way. So that was the mindset for that availability until a new city administrator's hired.
So
So I guess what all does this include? Those things?
there's utility rate analyses, there is financial planning for capital projects, that's that's kind of the second section. Debt issuance is in there. If you want us to look at user rates, that's in there. You may or may not. And then if you want to develop any kind of like a fund balance or liquidity policy, that's one item.
So there's no
This is-
cost incurred by approving this unless we ask you to do something, correct?
Right, this is just a framework. There would be a cost if you get us started on a certain task.
So I don't have any problems approving this as is, so at least Sarah has the ability, if questions come up, and we'd revisit stuff.
I'll just be frank, questions are already coming up. So you
I'm
want us
sure
to
they
get
are.
formally, there are a lot.
So,
With the utilities and the city, so if you want us to, look, to be handled in the right way, we should be engaged to work on it. So maybe you want more specifics, and maybe you wanna think about it too, some more. So I just, there's no,
you've been
I
with us
didn't
for
expect
20
you to
years.
be on the spot.
I mean, no, I don't have that, I don't have that concern. I don't know what it.
Any concerns?
I have no concerns.
Charles, you good?
Yeah, good.
Ken?
I'll move to accept it.
okay.
Second?
Okay, so how you vote? Sherman?
Yes.
Belden?
Yep.
Harry?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Avey, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, number 9, certified site grant application update and next steps.
Round two.
Round two, okay. So, just so everybody knows, this is the site we're looking at. I think everybody knows, but I brought a map just in case. Thank you. So that's the site we're looking at. And we've been having meetings, and we're applying for a grant that is due April 1st, and they will pay for about roughly half. There's some disallowed costs up to a cap of $37,500. And so we're working with Sarah to submit that grant application, and seem pretty optimistic that we're gonna get it. And it's almost like, well, we can't tell you, but. So, pretty confident we get that. And to the board, we would not, we need to do some things, but the agreement in front of you. If this all blows up, let's say we don't get the grant, let's say property owner, all of a sudden, something happens, you know, you'd only be billed for the work we got into it. I mean, if things blow up, we'd stop, and it would just be that. It would not be the full amount that's in the agreement.
So the grant timeline is when?
So the grant timeline is
April
due
1st.
April 1st, and then our goal is to get the the certified site information turned in by June, August at the latest, but our goal is the June, is to get that in. And here's, this is information we need to, Sarah, or Haley, Sarah. So I have another engineer helping me, her name is Haley. And so that's the breakdown of all the costs on who's doing what. So, we've assembled a team for all of this, and they're sub-consultants to us, so we're, running everything. So the attorney title, opinion, looking at Rick Gentry potentially doing that. The boundary survey would be Kim doing that. Phase 1 environmental assessment would be another sub-consultant, EOR, same with the wetlands. Threatened and endangered studies would be EOR. The cultural resources would be an archaeologist. Geotechnical would be Alder Butsky. They're all local Iowa firms. And then we would be doing all this stuff down below as part of that 25.9. Would be doing all that, and we broke it out even further on the second page. You can kind of see how that's broken up into estimated hours and everything. So I want to be very transparent about the numbers behind that fee that's in the agreement, so you can kind of see where all that is going. This fee would be taking it all the way to the end, all the way to doing a certified site. This is it. There is no phase 3 or anything. And I know Brian has been in conversations with the property owner. Seems to be pretty optimistic about all this and all in. So before you is an agreement to move forward with completing the certified site. And half it would be, close to half would be paid for with the grant.
And then when do you find out, or I guess they're certified, right? This
Yes.
takes you through, there's not like you apply and you've
Right.
gone through all the rigor to meet the requirements of the site.
Yes.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep. Now, there may be some things that, we come and we have to do public improvements,
Sure.
And so then you just have to have a commitment to do those within a certain amount of time. So one of the things we'll do is figure out what are those public improvements, what are those costs, what are those timeframes? And maybe, it comes back and it's a gazillion dollars to get something out there, and then we say, time out for that. But I don't think so. I mean, the water doesn't seem to be too onerous to get water out there. Sanitary sewer, we're going down the Harlan Street sewer, which caused me a little bit of pause. But it's not a lot of water that they're looking to be certified for how much wastewater we can handle.
Because so it would be electric cooled or something.
Yeah, so so the certified site is certifying us for anything, not a particular industry, and they say you have to have a minimum amount of water that you'll provide and a minimum sanitary sewer you'll serve. And so we have to meet those requirements regardless of the final use of the site. And looking at those, it's not too much. And so I'm not too worried about providing sewer and water to it. And, if it's a data center, usually the data centers are kind of interesting. They're good and bad both ways. So most data centers these days are not going with water for cooling. They're either using a closed loop, like with glycol, or they're using air cooling. So they're not using a whole lot of water. So they're down to maybe 10,000 gallons per day of water. So not a huge amount. If they're doing water cooling, like some of the older Microsoft ones in Des Moines, then we're 3 million gallons a day. And, yeah, and we're like, can't do that. So, we need to make sure we're, we pick a data center that's not wanting 3 million gallons a day.
But is anybody building that style anymore?
There's some medium ones that are pushing that, and a lot of cities are pushing back and saying, no, the technology's there to
Gotcha.
not have to do that, so
Sure.
quit doing it. Now, power for data centers, quite a bit. I did some research on that, and, it's, medium data centers, maybe 5 to 20 megawatts of power consistently, all the time. A large one like Microsoft might be 20 to 100 megawatts.
So you said all the time, so if you took an average of that times what we charge, how do you quantify that to a?
They're running that 24/7.
Right, but I'm saying, how does it equate to a dollar value?
I don't know how much you charge for a megawatt. Thanks for coming tonight, Chip.
Let me see if I can find that.
Or was Howie also saying something about if that sort of thing came in, then there'd be a
Cisco would definitely be involved in that, but at least this would help quantify the dollar
Right.
revenue you get out of a year if you knew what that conversion was.
Yeah, say it was 10 megawatts.
So are you just looking to purchase this land to certify it, just in case somebody comes in, or?
It's not a purchase, Charles, it's a
Okay.
site survey to, like Van Meter just got a very large data center. They
Right.
developed a site, and then the city didn't own any part of this. They facilitated the certification, and then so you get a bunch of jobs, evaluation, and
Right.
revenue. And so you don't have to you either gotta raise rates on your citizens, or you gotta grow your town, and I'm
Right.
of the second one. And so this was an opportunity, the only place in our territory that we have to offer that. So
Okay,
I ran across the grant inadvertently checking in on this, and so the cost we talked about, what, up to 100? So this revised it down to 74 with a potential half grant.
okay.
So that's.
And it doesn't have to be a data center.
No.
that's
Right,
gonna
no,
be-
right,
It could be anything.
No.
Yeah.
Could be anything, that's correct.
But it wouldn't be like, if it somehow the city decided to develop that for like retail,
It has to be
That-
industrial.
okay, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
It has to be
industrial.
something.
Yeah, it can't be
Industrial.
another quick start.
Right.
It has to be industrial use. And it's a good location. I mean, interstate access right there and flat site. It's,
Amy from the state said that several times.
yeah.
So what are we looking to do? Are we just looking to continue to move forward?
Yeah, that just approve his agreement
Yeah.
tonight to allow him to apply for the grant and step through this process until June to certify it.
I'd make a motion.
I'll second. How do you vote? Sherman?
Yes.
Belden?
Yep.
Herrick?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Avy, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Forrest, for all your work. Chip, likewise.
Number 10, electric substation project. A EIRLP award.
Just do them mailer or separate? Probably
So-
separate.
You have until December to accept the grant.
Right.
Chip, you should probably.
You bet. So you have until
Good thing we did that agreement.
December 1st your loan has to close by December 1st of 2026 in order to keep that 2.5 million at 2-ish %. So that's the time benchmark that you gotta meet.
And the numbers you showed us at that joint meeting is a savings of about $800,000 based on the project cost, so it's not small.
You bet, it's very meaningful, yes.
So we're kind of right now on a standstill until
Yes.
city council decides.
So can we work backwards on this, and in the April, can we ask the council to vote up or down, either way, what works best for them on some financial scenarios is what I would ask in the April meeting, and have a joint meeting if needed, either before ours or before theirs.
Okay.
And so then, does that give you enough time, is what I'm asking, to prepare scenarios for them to review?
It should.
So,
So,
And then if they choose not to go along, then we
Right.
can go and
Then-
raise rates to do the project like they had to, or.
well, that's the question, so then you would,
Yeah.
how long, when do you need the approval to close on that financing in December? I mean, you need 3 months to do that, or?
You should, determine that by, I think you can make a decision the next few months.
Yeah, no, I
And then
would-
you can close it whenever you need the money for the project. But,
so we should
I
have it
wouldn't
all
wait.
done by June.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah,
wait
there
to
you go.
decide, wait until October to decide.
Yeah,
No way.
let's,
That'll be a scramble.
it's just if they choose not to participate in this, then what do the financials look like?
Right.
Otherwise, we can evaluate those and make a decision.
And I think the board seems to be supportive of the substation project, so I think, maybe not entirely, but I think
See how the
I
meeting
think the
is next
need,
month.
I think the need's been outlined well by everyone, so up to you as a board to decide to go forward with it, if you wish.
I will say that we don't have a rate study back from Blair yet. We've been waiting to get a little more data that we have to work with an outside party to get. So if you'd like to table it, hopefully you can have that information available next month.
So what, I'm not following what you mean. You raised today from Blair, but where you table what?
Table this.
Your decision to proceed with the project until you know
Yeah,
what you
that's-
do with rates to support it.
And we wouldn't have to approve this until, I guess the way I took Kim's comment is we don't touch this until potentially June,
That's fine.
if that
Well,
works.
Well, we
I,
have to make a
no,
decision
next
before
month
June.
to see what city council's
gotta-
gonna,
yeah.
and then from there, we can go on.
Right, but I wouldn't wanna approve what they're asking
No.
for
Hold on.
$600,000. I mean, I wouldn't wanna approve that until we know what our finances are gonna be first. is what I'm
Right.
saying.
So I'll make the motion to table it until April.
I'll second. Okay, how do you vote? Sherman?
Yes.
Belden?
Yep.
Harry?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Abe, yes. Okay, approval of audit FY 2025.
Okay, we got our audit back. It is an unmodified opinion again, which is the highest mark that we can get.
Of being good.
Yes. Unmodified means don't change a thing, you did great.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept it?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, how do you vote? Sherman? Belden? Harry?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
And Edie. Okay, yes. Okay, I move 14, Holmes Murphy, follow-up insurance discussion, Claire and Linda. And then, under that is gonna be utility, property, and casualty insurance renewal, United Risk. I wanna hear from both of them before any decision is made. So, Claire, Linda, for you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Forrest. Thank you, Chip.
I believe when insurance gets brought up.
Well, thanks again for having us out today. For those of you who don't know, this is Linda Cope, so she lives here in Stuart.
Dexter.
Sorry, Dexter, gosh. Same school. But she's on our placement team at Holmes Murphy, so she's kind of in the background helping on this account. So she helped with that coverage review that we did. And so she's really in the weeds, so I brought her here today just in case there's any questions we could help alleviate in the meantime. So I don't have anything to present to you guys because we don't have an option to present as ICAP was not an option this year. So wanted to set a brief agenda of what I wanted to talk about today, and then by all means, this is meant to be a discussion and ask any questions that you might have. So first and foremost, I wanted to just go over a recap of where we're at, because I know it's been a few months since we last talked. And then insert there just how Holmes Murphy would be a business partner of yours and what that could look like. And then, of course, finish that with some questions. So to recap this, my coworker and I, Megan Miller, came out in October as we were asked to review the probably more benefits side than property casualty. But through conversations, we realized that the property casualty was going to be more of an opportunity where Holmes Murphy could add value versus the benefits side. But I hope through those discussions, Megan helped provide some insights and maybe some beneficial information to move forward with. On the property casualty side, myself and Linda here, we did a deep dive of your policy information and then came back out in December.
Sorry, that was last year's policy, right?
Yes, 25 to 26.
Do you have the current one?
I don't.
Okay.
Nope. Thank you. So we performed that coverage review, came out with just some recommendations, and one thing to note that in our job as brokers, any coverage review, and I know I mentioned this last time, you will find gaps in coverage. That's what our job is. And so it's our job to point you to the ones that we find are more important. I think we definitely hit on that last time. And so through that and through your last meeting, I can tell that maybe some recommendations had been taken into account, as it sounds like hopefully this is a very favorable renewal. And I don't want that to be lost on anyone today, that that's ultimately the goal for the city here and for the utilities board, is that you are getting competitive and fair options in the marketplace. So we understand that businesses have to do their due diligence, and this is a business decision at the end of the day. So I want to make that abundantly clear that moving forward, whatever the decision is, the outcome is what we hope for, is that you guys are sitting in a good spot. EMC is a great carrier, but it's also not lost on me that ICAP is something that keeps coming up. And I know when you're in the city space, there's not many players in it. And so to be able to have that option to compare to would be great, to just see where you're sitting at. If it could be more competitive, we don't know. We work with 22 other cities in the state of Iowa, and I would say probably 90% of them are with ICAP and IMWCA. And so where Holmes Murphy comes into this equation is really working alongside with you guys to prep you for probably call it next October, November, and get in front of ICAP and IMWCA and get them to offer a quote. And if they're not going to, tell us how we can get better and how can we be your partner to make sure that we can get that the year following. So that's not lost on me that that's something I'm hearing as a theme, that you would like to see an ICAP option, as we haven't seen one in years past. So that's somewhere I would say Holmes Murphy could really start to add value almost immediately, is getting our risk and safety team in here and starting to prep the board on what that could look like for future discussions there. I would say, I don't know what this all considers, but I know last meeting it sounded like you have a decrease in your renewal. As I mentioned, that's great. But want to look long-term here as well, as we know sometimes 1 year decreases. We don't know what the carrier is going to do, and so trying to be more of a partner with you guys at the 10-year vision here to make sure that we are crossing our T's and dotting our I's just with everything. As I know last time we brought up the addresses, and it's good to know that everything was verified, but Linda works with Dexter on the city council. Yep, and that was an issue for them. And so just bringing a different perspective of how can we use feedback that we've gotten from our clients or different issues to maybe forecast what we can't see right now as we're growing. So like I said, ultimately my goal here is pretty straightforward, as I know you haven't really gone through your renewal yet, and that's supposed to be afterwards. So I don't know what questions you have right now. The goal here today is obviously to pick a broker, because April 1st is your renewal date. So how that works is, if you did move forward with Holmes Murphy, there's a broker of record letter you sign, and there's a 10-day waiting period on that. So we would need it signed no later than this Monday, and that gives us a day of buffer room to make sure paperwork is, and it's 10 business days. So that's ultimately the goal here today, is to see how can we alleviate any questions. Again, I understand this is a business decision, so don't take that lightly at all.
I have a question for you. That check that we get at the end of the year, if we overpaid, is that through EMC or is that?
It's not an overpayment. It is a, Janice, can you explain how the dividend works?
It's a dividend?
Yes.
Okay, So is that
overall program is successful. They give every partner back a portion of the premium.
and that is through EMC?
Correct.
Okay.
Through IAMU, Iowa
So-
Association of Municipal Utilities.
Would you guys be given that too?
Is that through Jester?
Yes.
Yeah, we work through Jester. I was calling the EMC underwriter today, asking how that BOR process works like. So we directly just go to EMC, we don't go through, a program like that, so I don't know.
So if you guys don't do it, then we're out that money every year. And that's a pretty good chunk.
But that's through EMC versus ICAP or what?
No, that's through,
That's through Jester, which is
Jester.
yeah, it's not.
broker?
Yeah.
So the average dividend that we've received over the last 5 years, it comes out to like 5% over the last 5 or 6 years. This year was about 10%.
We've gotta look at that, cause that's a pretty good chunk that we get.
So are you, if most of your communities are ICAP, are you seeing their premiums going down as well? Or what's their average rate? I said this at the last meeting, because of historic events of a prior employee, I am, definitely of interest of looking at other bids, and that's just me. Neil, you're on the council, you know exactly what I'm talking about with Chief Smith, but anyway, I guess I'll just pass this out. I put a little table together, just for my own information. If you guys wanna look at it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too, but I took a number off of that. I think, is it Cincinnati or Ohio or whatever the second policy that we have? So that number was 5%, another one was like 1% or 2%, and then EMC, if you look back on the numbers I got from Sarah, the average premium increase from 2021 has averaged 13%. Does everybody have this table? Everybody, okay. So the average increase has been 13% year over year. If you just looked at using Cincinnati's number of 5% in the middle two tables, we've exceeded the 5%. So the difference between 13 and 5% is another $78,000, $77,991. Okay? So what happens with reserves, if you think of this, ICAP represents about 800 different legal entities in the state, municipal entities, counties, schools, cities, I don't know if they're schools, but counties and cities. That's my thing. They're a nonprofit. They're not publicly traded. And so that's my take on this is, we've never been able, year after year, I have asked for an ICAP bid and we never get there, ever.
Because
So,
when the ICAP guy came out, he had problems with a couple of people, with 2 or 3 people. I
It
was
was
on,
IMWCA that
Huh.
came out, the work comp, IMWCA.
I thought it was ICAP.
It was IMWCA. I made sure to check that before I came in the email threads.
Okay, so then why isn't ICAP willing?
So ICAP, what I got told this year is it's sometimes difficult when you're marketing an account and you're not the incumbent broker. And so ICAP and IMWCA talk, and based off of 2 years ago now it would be, or was it 2020, it would be 2024 when Todd Hansen came out. They talk to each other, and it's hard to speak to any risk and safety that you're getting when I don't know what the internal dialogue is, because I know that's the main reason that IMWCA said no, was due to the risk and safety loss control visit. And so they talked closely to one another, and they said, we've declined this account the past 5 or 6 years. We're not gonna look at it again because nothing's changed. And so I was pitching to them, well, we're in here trying to help, teaching them, getting our risk and safety in there. And they're like, yeah, we would listen to that story, but next year.
So the last set of tables, if you took the difference of the Dow the last 5 years, and you said, I'm gonna invest what I paid, that $78,000, that gets you to $10,000 of reserves. Because what does an insurance company do with their reserves? They invest it, right? So if we would have done that through iPay, which hopefully we get to that, and that wasn't something Ash was fond of, but that's something that Chip is. Different opinion, neither one are wrong. We would have gotten to 6,000 over that time, and we wouldn't have overpaid the 70. Oh, well, we may have. We don't know if we would have been with ICAP, what the trend would have been.
And you guys have ICAP through yours, or also? So,
But I don't know why we haven't gotten that bid, but that's just, anyway, so.
I'd like to ask one question with that sheet in front of you. What has been the decrease from this year?
I don't know what the total number is. Is it 90 You mean what's our price this,
No, what caused the decrease of this year?
oh,
Like, what was the premiums last year compared to this year?
Went down
Went down
Wow.
11,000.
11,000, so back to like the dividend portion, yeah, we might not get that, but simply, and I'm not discrediting any work by any means, but simply by an exercise on your behalf of Holmes Murphy coming out, sharing some ideas. I know probably for certain I could go in here that the work comp debit might be removed from that I predicted last time, that would save you automatically $900 roughly. From there, that's saved you $11,000, so just proving to the point of like, again, I understand it's a business decision and a dividend is nice, but we have to think long-term here of having a strategic partner that could potentially get you consistent decreases, if not flat, and what does this ICAP quote look like? Again, no promises, because we don't know, and I know we've had maybe a sour taste in our mouth with IMWCA, but that's really where we're here to try to help. We're trying to sell our services as Holmes Murphy, not necessarily like a price play.
so what have you seen for trends over that same, like Adel, you guys have Adel, you got, ICAP is at Adel,
Mhm.
right? So, growing community, forward thinking, what is their trends, have their premium trends been?
It's been very consistent.
I'm not real sure.
I talked with the producers today, and Todd Hansen's one of them. It's been very consistent, if no increases at all. ICAP is just known for that. You have some more stability when you're in it, and that's why it's so attractive to try to get in it. They also have higher limits, and the list goes on and on of what they can offer. So that's why I hear you guys. I'd like to see what that quote could look like. But to answer the question earlier, and maybe the million-dollar question is, why have we not been getting that, and what could we try to do to position ourselves to get that?
That kind of leads to my question of, I mean, I'd like your feedback on this. This whole process, since, I mean, we came to you as a request to, could you come in and see what you could provide us
Yep.
as, just, you know, and it was a request for proposal.
Mhm.
What do you typically see when you go to other communities, when you go through this process?
Yep.
What have the challenges been here particularly compared to what you see in other places?
Good question. I would say it varies. It depends on what the need is at the time. So if it's more coverage related, that maybe they had a loss that wasn't covered, then that's the need that we're trying to address. Sometimes it's price play, and especially if they're not an ICAP, then I would say that's more of a need of how do we educate employees and members who might be there to make this as attractive as possible to ICAP to want to quote. And that's what our job is, to try to help. I don't know if that
I'm
answers your
thinking more of
question.
the challenges of the process itself,
Okay,
of not so much the numbers on the
Yep.
paper for what we're quoting, but to me, I'm thinking this had to have been frustrating for you guys coming out here.
yeah, I mean, I would
Because-
say, to be candid, like, obviously, these are public knowledge, and I think it's great when, especially on my own clients, when competition comes in, it makes me sharpen my pencil. It makes underwriters sharpen their pencil, so I think that process is great in itself. Now, when you're the incumbent, I'm sure this sentiment is shared, is it's a little frustrating, because it makes you, you know, maybe have to be a little more defensive, but it appears, and again, I don't know, because I haven't read all of this, but some of the recommendations that were made, that Holmes Murphy did, kind of our homework, were taken and made to improve the program. Fantastic. But then that leads me to the question of, what else do we have to do to earn your business?
Okay, my question is, I have a friend that lives in Des Moines.
Mhm.
This is what she's done for 40 years. Some of the things that you had said to us that you would see if EMC could work it out,
Mhm.
she says they won't do that. They don't do that.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm kind of on the standstill there.
That's completely fine, and I think when you're in a broker position, we work with hundreds of carriers. I don't know necessarily the stance on every single carrier's appetites and opinions, so that's one thing that we bring to the table that we would like to see if this is something that EMC would move on. So that's just, these are, again, they're recommendations and something to look at to see if we can improve that program. We have nothing wrong in coming back and saying that's not something that EMC offers. Just because it's something that EMC doesn't offer, that doesn't mean Acuity doesn't offer it, or Travelers. But in this positioning, we obviously have limited options here. So that's where some of these recommendations come from, as we've seen other carrier partners offer them.
And my problem is, I wanna see a dollar amount.
Yeah, no, I'm with
Yeah.
you. So go
That's
back to
my
that-
problem.
go back
I
to
wanna
that-
see a dollar amount.
That debit credit, is that in that information? The actual, was it work comp or was it?
It's work comp.
So this goes back to my question of, in a typical request for proposal,
Mhm.
what would you have received along the way that would have allowed you to compete on a fair basis and present back to the entity?
What's a normal RFP process in
Yes.
some other place? Yeah, I don't know.
I would say, I mean, this is just an interesting case with cities of, in a normal RFP, we have hundreds of carriers we work with. So we would receive, like, we got all the information we needed, but typically we come back with potentially another option. And if it's not more competitive, we still bring it to the table to say, hey, you're still getting a kicking deal, you know? And so with this, it's hard because ICAP is the only thing that we could bring to the table, and we made it very clear that that was not something they were willing to do this year. Does that help answer,
Yeah.
or am I misunderstanding?
Yeah, just outside of our, service providers that are competing for our
Yeah.
business, I think we as an entity have a problem with doing things in the proper way so that we can actually go out to bid and present a fair situation for service providers to compete for
Yep.
our business. I'm concerned about that, and because even if we're getting outstanding service from our current service provider and are getting the lowest rates, if we can't go out in a fair process and go out and do our due diligence in the way that we're supposed to be doing as an entity, that's terrible. We've gotta be able to do that on a regular basis and not have situations like this where my personal opinion is, in different times over my years, either in the council or on this board, that we sometimes dangle this carrot out there, like, you've got a chance at this business, but we're just doing it for the sake of doing due diligence, and we don't really mean it from a perspective of, we're gonna really take a focused look at what's in front of us and make a decision that's in the best interest of our constituents. So I want us to do that in this scenario, and actually, so how can we make this a fair, are we too late in the game at this point in time? Like, I wanna actually be fair to United Risk Services and be fair to you guys, and then be fair to our constituents in this whole process. And I don't know how we do that, because we're all just kinda looking at, well, what's the financial numbers, and we couldn't do this and that, but, and I don't know. That's one of the things, and this is a side note, as we move toward another city administrator that will be taking the reins here in the next 6 months or whatever the case may be, whether it's from our financial services, our insurance, our coordination with our engineering people, all that type of stuff. Like, to me, in a normal world, we'd get a recommendation flat
Yeah.
out from our city administrator that would say, I've looked at all this, I've been involved in all the communication across the board, I've worked with our chairperson, and I'm gonna make the recommendation back to the board that says, this is what I think we should go with, because they're the lines of both the board and the day-to-day activity of what's going on. And so they should know what's going on with the service providers and all that type of stuff. So if I've had any animosity toward any one or multiple service providers in this whole thing, it's a frustration, I think, mostly with our own entity for not doing the proper due diligence and the proper way of going about that.
Yeah, I would say an easy way for you guys to make a fair decision is you need to realize what's important to you as a board. Is it price, or is it the next 5-10 year vision? And I think that can make your decision today.
To me, it's both.
Yeah, because I understand the sentiment of, especially with cities, you need to run lean. You need to make sure you're getting the best option possible. But I'm very confident in the fact that if it weren't for Holmes Murphy coming out here, do you think the renewal would have been the same? Not saying you
That's a
wouldn't have
fair
gotten a
point.
decrease.
No,
But I think
don't.
that's a fair thing to say for the work that we've done.
no, I don't, because my car insurance went down this year too. So, and I've never seen that happen. So no, I do not think it would.
I know
Competition
And I have it
is-
somewhere else.
every year, we work with our insurance agent over 3 or 4 months leading up to the renewal to go over everything, gather information, verify data, that's with someone who has worked with us for years, who already has most of it.
Yep.
I think what Neil is asking is if we wanted to go through a request for proposal process, how long would it take you, starting from scratch, to prepare a competitive bid?
I would say,
Do you do that from scratch if you already have a starting point?
well, we already have, I mean,
Yeah.
it
But
takes,
You're
yes.
going to put it out there for everyone.
Right, you need to
There-
start from
There are
scratch.
entities that we've never heard of, that we've never worked with
Right.
before, and you are trying to make it fair for everyone and competitive. So how long does that take?
Is this specific to insurance?
This is specific to insurance.
See, with cities, it's
It's a public.
it's
document.
first come, first serve, so it's like we couldn't get a quote because you're already with EMC. So that's where it, like, that answer's gonna be skewed in the sense that it would take probably 2 weeks for me to quickly realize that we can't get an option because we don't have access to EMC if ICAP's not gonna offer, so a month, maybe?
Okay, so when we asked Town and Country, they gave us a quote, they gave us a price, didn't they? They kind
was
of
a
threw
phone-
it together.
It was a phone call deal, that lady, but
Yeah.
she never would commit to
They-
it.
They tried once, and then I think the next year they said they didn't have it ready.
Exactly, but they still gave us a quote, right? And were they going through EMC too?
No, they were quoting ICAP.
They were quoting ICAP. Okay,
So 1 month is a fair amount of time to allow for a
If you
request
want
for
us,
proposal.
if we're gonna send an account out to market, it takes a good 3 to 4 months to do all that. To get everything put together, give a company a couple of months to come out, lost control, do anything that they wanna do, give them time to underwrite it. We gotta be here at least a month early because of your dates, so that, we gotta have your quote before March, cause your April date, so be at this meeting, so it does take a few months
so,
to
okay, so
actually get it out.
say, whatever we decide on these for this year, then whoever can start next month for next year.
Yeah. We start out usually 6 months out, they start
So,
sending things out, getting updated info, that type of thing.
So say give them a good year to
Get other
Yeah,
people.
get everything.
So you're saying you would be more quoting next year than this year, is that what you're saying?
The ask today is, and what we've been told from ICAP and IMWCA, is that we take control of the account at renewal this year. We really get in the door and start to understand your account, because there's no good when we come out and we don't really truly understand what you guys have going on. So we try to figure out, understand everyone's role here, what your policy structure looks like, and then 6 months out from renewal, let's start talking to ICAP and IMWCA and get loss control out here and start to work that process. So, that's where we're at today.
So do you, I guess my
If
question is,
you're not, but you said earlier though, that if you're not whatever that status is called, they won't work.
Current broker. With Holmes Murphy, they won't.
Not Holmes Murphy, I'm talking, when you reached out to ICAP, right?
Yes.
And they said that they would not provide any type of pricing in the current status for
No.
this year.
Yep,
So if there's no change in that status for next year, why would they provide it next year?
it's a good question.
I'm just asking, I don't know.
They know that when Holmes Murphy gets involved, that we usually get loss control involved, and we are gonna make you a better operating entity, insurance-wise, and, find out if there's something we can improve on or whatever to make your claims go down, that type of thing. And ICAP, and they know that we have strong loss control, and that that's what we do, and we work with our insureds, and we make them better insured, so that's why they're willing to take a look at it if we've had our loss control and their loss control, and everybody involved in seeing how you operate.
so do you ever start, like Sarah said, from scratch? Or do you always use everybody's policy that they've already got?
All their policies that they already have.
So why do you not just go start from scratch? cause all your work's
Carriers
done
need
for
it.
you.
Carriers need it.
We don't know what buildings you own and
Yeah.
how much you have them insured for.
Well, that's where you would come and you would sit or get all this information.
That's not how that process works for insurance.
I don't know insurance.
No, and that's
I
why,
don't.
that's why
saying-
we're here. We have to have old policy information, we have to have loss runs. Carriers will not look at it without that,
So I think so if you go get car insurance, that's what happens, right? They
Right.
just, and that's not what happens with
No.
municipal insurance because it's a public record and all of that's.
Yep,
So how many insurance companies are there, or is it just the two that are able to offer this for the state of Iowa?
we had Travelers and Apex look at a few cities around town recently, but they weren't as competitive as EMC and ICAP, so no one moved to them.
And the larger cities have more opportunity, more carriers will look at them than smaller communities.
So there's a chance that it could be not someone EMC later on down the road?
I don't know if we're big enough for that, but. So
Yeah.
is that information, is that in there or not?
Yeah,
Can we
so, I
change-
mean, I just briefly went to the workers' compensation page, and it looks like the debit is removed. And so that's fantastic news on your behalf, because that's,
And so that's part of the savings?
yeah,
Okay.
that's part of the ultimate savings.
Debit credit,
I,
And
Can't look through all
property
this.
rates overall, all property rates have gone down because we didn't have any bad storms in this area last year and the year before. So reinsurance that came up in January is cheaper. So property rates, property deductibles, that type of thing, across the board is all going down.
any other questions we can help answer?
I don't have any.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay,
Oh, thank you.
yep, United Risk.
Yes, sir, I'm with United Risk Services, and, it was good to listen to the questions you have. I appreciate that, you want to do the best on behalf of us as the citizens and do your due diligence, so I appreciate and admire that. I will speak before I get into your renewal to the IMWCA, ICAP situation. Because I did participate in the walkthrough that IMWCA came out and did just for safety. There were some concerns with just a lack of general safety interest. It seemed like there was a lack of forward thinking on creating a mentality of safety and a safety culture. Questions that were asked generally, well, we're never gonna do that. Just a very cold approach to embracing stronger safety measures. You can look at your renewal and your losses are great. So it's not a matter of improving loss control. It's more a matter of IMWCA is interested in seeing Stuart Utilities, City of Stuart, build a culture of safety. And I would like to help with that this coming year I've already talked to Matt Funk. He's very interested in creating a safety committee that could be made up of both the city and the utility board, or utilities. Staff members where we meet once a month. We begin to discuss safety things, incidents that don't turn into an actual loss, but that we could talk through and say, here are some steps we could take to avoid that in the future, just to begin to permeate the entire city and utilities, the employees, with a sense of purpose around safety and awareness of loss control and ownership of that. Another discouraging point that he had was that all of the players that we scheduled to meet with were not available, and that happened more than once. And so it seemed to him that there was a lack of interest in focus on this. So
What do you mean by players?
police, the city, met with Pat, with EMS, with the firefighters, with the streets department. So he sat down with each of them and asked a series of questions, and just some of the responses to those questions were discouraging from his standpoint. So I strongly feel that if we were to create that safety committee where there's a monthly discussion and meeting, and we bring all the players to the table and are actively talking about and creating that culture of safety, IMWCA would see that and would have a lot stronger interest in relooking at the city.
And that policy direction has to come from the top,
I would agree.
so.
I would agree, and I think this is the ideal time to do that, because we're gonna have a new administrator, and we can get them on board right off the bat and have that entire culture start from the top, but bring everybody to the table and have everybody have a voice, not with a critical spirit that they're turning somebody in, but just so that they can proactively look at situations and incidences and make a change before something serious happens. So that is something that was of interest to me as I talked to IMWCA last year. And he did come out 2 years in a row. And quite candidly, another concern they have is that this account is marketed every year. They want to see consistency. They don't want client shopping every year just for bottom line. They want to develop a relationship and a commitment and a partner with whomever they're working with as the carrier and the client. So quite honestly, taking this to market every year is a discouragement to them. The IMWCA gentleman told me, he said, we're not actively looking for clients right now. We don't need more clients. We want the right fit. So I think working together, there's potential for us to create the kind of client that would be the right fit for them. So any questions on IMWCA or ICAP? IMWCA does the work comp portion and strictly the work comp, but they have a lot of offerings for safety, and they can come alongside, and they do a lot of presentations in the area. I went to Altoona for a great presentation for cities and counties this fall, and they really do a nice job of building that culture of safety. And then ICAP does the other lines of coverage. So like she mentioned, they do talk to each other. But those were some of the concerns that were brought up to me when that happened.
And who does your guys' safety now?
We do that through IAMU, and of the whole city, we're the only entity that has a safety program. So, I mean, I just wanna point out that although there's always room for improvement, and, you know, we are focused on safety with the utilities, and we do have an active safety program, so.
And I think
Is
you
it
do.
like once a month or something?
It's every month. It covers all the required things that we need to have,
Right.
and then other things that aren't required but are just beneficial to us.
One of the comments I can recall from years ago that was made was about a seatbelt.
Yeah.
It was
And
a
that
condescending
would come up.
comment about a seatbelt.
And that's something that's.
And it wasn't any, you or anybody in this
Right.
room, it was just a comment made, and from someone trying to offer that, to pull the plug, and I just, again, I would really like to see
I have experience with two companies of that when they drive that, and I was the employee who fought it, like every employees do. Those kind of things, those policies do help with your insurance, because that's what drives all of it, is the
Right.
insurance.
But
all
the
these
comment
rules.
was made to whoever came out from the company.
That's where the way you enforce that starts with us, though, with policy, is we're gonna do this.
Right.
And you have to enforce it, and it's not fun on either end of
Sure.
things. But that's what insurance is supposed, I went through it with one company now, my company I'm with now is doing the exact same things 10 years behind. And it's all being pushed by insurance.
Mhm.
And so we may have to do these things to keep our rates
Sure.
reasonable.
And when I started a few years back, there wasn't discussion about safety committees and return to work programs and all of those things, but they're becoming more and more critical to be proactive in your risk management as a client for insurance companies to give you some of the benefits of lower premiums. So it is becoming more and more something that we need to consider as we look at marketing.
I know with the post office, we had them once a week. Sometimes we had them more. So,
Yeah, I'm in construction, so we have toolbox talks on the daily, you know, we sit down and write out plans, you know, for some of the stuff that we do, you know. And then we have corporate that comes through, we have a partnership with OSHA, you know, there's several things that you can do to up the safety, you know. And at first, you know, because I started in construction where there was hardly any safety, and now it's nothing but safety. You know, our culture is, first and foremost, it's safety, then it's quality, and then productivity. You know, and I was dumbfounded because they actually care about you.
Yeah.
They're not worried about how much they're gonna get done in a day. They're worried about the quality and the safety for first and foremost.
Mhm.
You know, they go above and beyond OSHA. You know, on the leading edge, OSHA says 10 feet, they say 15. I mean, that's how safe they want you to be. You know, and there shouldn't be no bucking or about that anyways, because I want everybody to go home with 10 fingers and 10 toes and go back to their family.
You
So,
don't want
I mean, a
something
safety
like that
committee
happening
might
to
not be
you.
bad.
right.
All right, any other questions about that? Let's move into your renewal information. I do apologize for the small, I was trying to get it all on one page and that's pretty small for you. What I've done is just list out, first column to the left, in bold are each of your specific lines of coverage.
And we're looking just at the one sheet here, right?
Oh, she did make a larger. Good job. Yes, it's the table that shows your renewal, the year-over-year comparison. So on the left-hand column there is each line of coverage. And then the second column indicates your renewal premium from last year. The third column indicates your renewal premium quote for this year. So you can see that commercial output increased a little bit, but really most every other line was reduced overall. They did do a lot of work on this account. EMC felt strongly that they would like to keep it, so.
So we jacked up the deductible last year to hedge against the increase, so this still has like a $50,000 deductible on property?
Yes.
Okay, so what would it be if we lowered that to be more normal of prior years? Because I think, what was it before, 5 or 10 or?
Something like that.
So what would the premium be, if you had normalized that, like kept that to a?
I would have to look at that and ask them to revise the quote. I don't have that information. That was part of the driving factor of some of their lowering of the premiums this year, was that you have maintained a high deductible, which shows that you want to have ownership in your risk management, and they really appreciated that. And it was spelled out 3 or 4 times that your higher deductible was driving factor of them lowering the lines, as well as your low risk factor. I will say that the wind and hail
Are you talking about the expense mod, or
deductible.
which one,
The
experience
wind
mod?
and hail deductible there on property, the bottom row is a 1% typically with EMC. So if you lowered your deductible for all other perils, your wind and hail deductible would be 1%. So sometimes, depending on what the cost of the replacement cost for a building is, the 1% might be higher. So the 50,000 single payment is actually lower than if there was a tornado that came in here and wiped out several high-cost buildings. You would actually end up paying out more than the 50,000. And I could do that for you and provide that for each building if you'd like, but
No, I didn't know how much it would increase our premium if we went back, if we went from the 87, that's the total numbers, 87. Last year was 98, it looks like. So if we had our deductible back to what it was historically, what would that do to our premium difference between that?
I could ask, what would you, what are you thinking? Like a
I was just
25,000,
asking.
a 10,000?
What was it? I think it was 5, I don't remember.
I want to say it was 10 before, but I'm not positive.
Yeah,
I
I don't
can look
remember.
back, I
Yeah.
just wasn't sure if that's what you wanna go back to what it was, or you wanna consider another alternative lower.
Well, I just know we jacked it up last year to save, the increase, because, we had reserves to cover that if we needed to, but.
Well, and property-wise, I think we talked about, a big part of our property is the water tower we just put up, which is not gonna have a lot. You're not gonna have a lot of damage with wind and hail, anyway, I would hope.
Yeah.
True.
Right.
True.
Just at the seam where they cut it.
There is an optional earthquake coverage quote there at the bottom of the page. If it would increase to $13,244 with a $50,000 deductible, and the COP policy would go to $2,730 if you wanted to include earthquake coverage for each of those lines. So you could just replace the premium that's listed on that line with the alternative premium to include earthquake coverage. In the past, that's not been something that the board's been interested in doing, but, because they wanted that lower overall premium. But if you'd rather have the earthquake coverage, that is available, and there's a quote available for that. One other comment I would make is you do have an increased limit option for the cyber coverage, also with a $2,500 deductible. There's higher umbrella limits listed, 2 million and a 5 million. Those are probably two of the things I would encourage you to look at increasing. Cyber, there's just so many cyber claims anymore and concerns with that, and
I'd like to point out also that at the end of this year, we're going to be forced to transition to a cloud-based operating system with our software. Right now, we're very insular. We have our own server. We're not connected to the rest of the world that way.
So what's causing that requirement?
G-Works is requiring it of everyone. G-Works, that's our
Company
software
that
company.
provides
Their software.
All of
They're
the
like
people who
Microsoft.
speak the old coding language are retiring. The young kids don't know how to keep that going.
Gotcha.
But they all live in the clouds, so that's where we have
Literally.
to do. So
Neil's frustrated now because he's in the clouds too. He's the one.
I would really like to see that increase.
So that's across all cities.
That is all cities. All cities are being forced to
Okay.
transition.
Thanks. I didn't know if you had choices.
Nope.
Okay.
the other thing I wanted to point out is your equipment breakdown is currently on a 3-year term with Cincinnati. And Cincinnati is willing to stay on that. The upcoming policy term would be your second year in that 3-year term. But Cincinnati is completely getting out of the equipment breakdown business altogether. They're not going to offer that line. They would stay on it one more year, but then you would have to do something different. Jester is the one that brokers that equipment breakdown policy for all the IAMU participants. And so they have brokered another option with CNA. It's actually a lower premium, better coverage, you have a higher limit, and better deductibles. So to me, that's a no-brainer to change. You can change it renewal this year, you could choose to wait another year. But in my opinion, it's a better decision for you to change now because you're gonna get more coverage, lower deductible, and you'll stay with the IAMU program for that. The other option that I included was violent event response coverage. If there was any kind of violent event, the coverage limits are available there on the bottom of your table. The other thing I would encourage you to look at is your crime limit is currently at 150, and I would encourage you to increase it to at least 250,000 for employee theft. We're just seeing a lot of small thefts for, you know, every few weeks we're hearing in the news about theft from some city employee. So that would help with covering that. So that's another optional coverage for you to increase. So you can choose to make no changes and renew as is with the reduction of 11.42%, or you can also adjust some of those limits and offer yourself more coverage with the lower premium this year. As Kim pointed out, your dividend for the 2025 policy term was $11,723 that you got back from the IAMU program. So that really does make a big difference on your overall premium when you're getting those returns on your investment with the program. Another thought on maybe a way to reduce premium would be on your commercial auto. We could increase deductibles for the comp and collision to $2,000 versus $1,000, and that would be an alternative option. I know that's a lot. What questions can I answer for you?
How often are we making claims on commercial auto?
You're not making any.
We're really good.
You guys are safe.
I mean,
They wear their seatbelts.
And you've not had any, so that's something to consider.
So then I go back to, why has EMC raised our rates over 60% in the last 5 years? And then we do a little bit of research and try to normalize the expenses and where things are coming, and ironically, they come down 11, just saying.
It's not just EMC, it's all insurance companies.
I don't buy that, but that's,
Plus
No,
your
I
wind
do.
hail claim has fallen off.
the roof damages?
Yes,
Yeah.
so that's more beneficial. You took on a higher deductible, which is beneficial.
But how many times do we get hit with the same claim? I mean, year over year, over the last 4 years, 14%, I mean, it's like Xenia, 14%, 11%, 23%, 11%. And that's what led us to the water study, is an uncontrolled exposure to our citizens, you know? That's, I don't know. And I don't know if ICAP trends the same way or not.
I know
Yeah.
my insurance has,
My
personally.
homeowners is,
Mine,
Mine had gone up, my last bid to the company I was with is gonna be 2.5 times what it was 5 years ago. And I've had to change again, but it's still over 50% higher than it was.
Yep.
So.
except
it's-
my car insurance, and it went down.
I mean, that's one though on the auto where, 1,000 for a city with our reserve seems awfully high. That's what I carry on my vehicles. I mean, and I'm just me. And it makes I mean,
you wanna increase it.
I would say increase it, yeah. 1,000, I think, to me is pretty low for
Yeah.
us. Because little claims cost a lot.
They do.
They don't, you count claims, you don't necessarily look at dollar amount, it's claims more than anything, it
Both
seems like.
dollar and.
But I mean, claims, as, on ours, I know I had one claim and there was something I considered turning it in, I was told, you just had a claim 6 months ago, if you turn that in, we're gonna drop you. I'm serious. So that's where I see.
EMC is publicly traded and ICAP is a nonprofit. That's just, you know.
But did they say ICAP's not even willing to look at us?
Not this year,
Not this year?
maybe
Yeah, and I
next year.
think Holmes Murphy, she says, you said 90% of your client that you work with is, yeah, so there's no leverage right now because we haven't, you know,
Yeah.
we've tried, but again, some of the comments that we've all talked about.
I would say about 50% of my clients that I work with are with ICAP.
Okay,
So I'm pretty equal on that.
so they say the same thing to you when we try to get a bid, that the comments come through and,
Correct. We asked IMWCA to come out and do their survey last year, which he did.
yeah,
And then ICAP, actually, they looked at the overall city and utilities losses, and they just were not interested.
so they didn't look at utilities alone. So can you even have an ICAP policy independent then of
ICAP
EMC?
really doesn't like to take on a utility without the city as well. I don't know if that's cut and dried or set in stone, but I've been told that more than once.
And that'll hurt us
What?
if we would look going with the city, because they have more
Oh,
claims
yeah,
than
yeah,
we do.
no, that's not an option, yeah, I agree.
They do.
The other thing to note there, I wrote it, but we can place flood coverage. If you're interested in having flood coverage on a specific building or on all buildings, we would get those quotes, but it would be dependent on which buildings you're interested in doing.
Has it ever flooded in Stuart?
I have never,
Well, but you could,
64 years, I have never known it to flood in Stuart.
well,
Flood
flood
damage
doesn't
several
necessarily
years
mean the
ago.
whole town's underwater.
Well,
It
no,
could be
I
one
know,
specific-
but I mean,
Like be in the basement or
Right.
whatever else here, yeah.
Water main break, or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, service line break.
We
About
had,
20 years ago, there was.
remember we had an inland marine deal, and what is inland marine, isn't that like,
It's your equipment.
yeah, but
I
it's
mean,
gotta be
like a
flooded,
hurricane.
right?
No, no
it's
hurricane.
Equipment.
you know,
It's just what they call the policy for our generators, wasn't it? It's my
This
understanding.
was some deal where we were insuring vehicles with inland marine policies or something, like they were gonna get flooded, is that a possibility?
Inland marine is your mobile equipment.
Right, so what's the part of that would involve flooding?
Inland marine doesn't have anything to do with
Okay.
flooding. It's
Yeah, there
just
was
mobile
something
equipment.
quirky
Yeah.
with that one. I
Like her-
remember.
I don't know, we were paying
What
thousands
other
of dollars for
questions
that.
can I answer for you about this?
we just kind of need to decide tonight, right, on what insurance, because it's April 1st, it's up.
Correct. And I would just remind you that I really do recommend and request that you increase the cyber coverage.
Oh, yes, the
From what
cyber.
to what?
The cyber coverage.
To how much? From what to what?
From 1 million to 2 million, it's only an increase of just over $2,000 a year.
Okay.
And the city has had an incident where someone took
Okay.
information out of the packet and tried to scam someone in town.
Wow.
So
Okay.
And then you would need to make a decision if you want to move to CNA for the equipment breakdown, or if you want to stay with Cincinnati this year.
And this is last year for Cincinnati.
Yes.
So what's the rate on the other one?
But it was lower.
lower.
$15,885
We had better
versus
coverage.
$15,000.
I would say go with CNA.
Yep.
If it's lower, better coverage, and Cincinnati's gonna be gone after this year anyway.
And this is a 3-year lock.
It's not a lock, we can get out of it because they're getting out of the market altogether.
No, but I'm saying, aren't these on a 3-year?
It's in a
Didn't you tell us
three-year
that, Sarah?
policy term.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a 3 year.
Cincinnati was a 3-year term.
But is the new one?
It's not
It's
this one.
only
We
three.
got one more year left.
Nope, the one we're switching to.
CNA is a
Oh.
1-year term.
It's
Yeah.
only 1 year, not 3 years.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions I can answer about insurance in general or specific things that I can do differently for you or ways I can improve how I'm serving you? Or I know that Sarah and I talk regularly, but that doesn't always, you're not aware of some of those conversations. So we could make those, bring those to the board after we've had the conversation and just give you an overview if that would be beneficial, as we have those. If that would help you better understand what's going on behind the scenes. But it's completely up to you how I can better serve you.
To be fair to you and to help give information to us about the process, what's your feedback on, I mean, the whole RFP process where, you know, it wasn't necessarily the normal process, I don't think. And so you had mentioned when you came in, one of the last times that you hadn't even realized that another company had been contacted. That seems like a communication breakdown on our end to say, we're looking at other options, and so we're gonna have information to you guys, and we're gonna have information to you guys, and you're both gonna be ready to present to us on an equal playing field. And I don't think personally we were fair to either one of you guys in this whole process, and I'd like to see us do better as a group in going forward on this. And you guys heard me do the spiel earlier. I won't do that whole thing again. So.
Well, last year they did an actual RFP process where they published it in the paper, and it was public when Town and Country were trying to get a bid from ICAP for you. So that was the process that had been used in the past, where there was a deadline date where people could submit bids, and then you were able to make an informed decision without either of us seeing the other quote. So that's the way I've seen it done for cities. But just communication is good, and open communication about what's happening, and again, if there's things that you want to see differently, if there's ways I can serve in a better way, I want to do that. That's my goal, is to serve my local community in the best way possible.
So can we do with her like we said with them, start, no matter who we take tonight, start next month or whatever, give them 6 months to work on it?
I think it's all.
You know what I'm talking?
Work on our, I mean, the question of like ICAP and like getting
Them
competing
coming to
information.
us, we're giving them a whole year before it's due again to come to us, both of them. So they're equally even, and we're giving them, we're doing better on our part.
I
Is
think it's
what I'm
gonna-
saying.
I think it's
Well,
gonna-
like she said, each company should have the opportunity to come and not
Right,
bounce
Yeah,
off
one
each
or the
other's
other.
work
right.
Right.
That's why I
and give us
asked,
a bid.
why do you ever start from scratch? That's why I asked that, or from another policy.
I just think across the board, that's just not how,
That's
you
just
have
the
to start from
business.
somewhere.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
business baseline. and-
Right.
And all you can do is look at last year's policy.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's how I shop for insurance.
Right.
But then,
They're gonna look at the same information.
right,
So,
but they should be able to come to us with a bid that, you know, like I said, it shouldn't be playing against each other on the
Right.
bid. So,
But in her defense, it's hard when the only option is EMC for you.
correct.
And
No, I understand
so,
that.
I mean, she really doesn't have a way to bring a bid,
Right.
so.
I wish there was someone else besides EMC.
Oh my, don't even say that
Everyone
twice.
does.
I mean,
We don't want to have to just
It's monopoly.
do this year after year with
why can't
no
it be
other
5 or
option.
6 different companies?
Lots of risk with cities
Oh, I understand
and
that.
utilities and.
Shareholders.
Okay, anyone else got any more questions? We've got to decide
No
tonight what
questions.
we're going to do.
Well, thank you for letting me take care of your policies this last year and the previous years. I appreciate the opportunity. Look forward to hopefully working with you again next year.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
The question I have for the board, from a policy perspective, is what is it that our goal is for our service provider? Are we gung-ho about, we really want to have a competitive bid from ICAP, and that's where we're heading. If we want status quo and we're okay with EMC and all that type of stuff, I mean, really should be weighing about 10 different things here and setting a directive for our employees to go work with the different on the RFP process to the different service providers and say, here's exactly what we're going for. This is what we want to see. How can you, as a service provider, get us to that goal? That's what we're deciding on. I mean, it's not just the financial number in front of me, because
I mean, we're not even guaranteed next year to be even looked at for my cap, so. I mean, that's what I picked up from it. Maybe.
I guess my thought on that is that I felt frustration, I think Brian's mentioned it too, that for years, whether we've been on the council or we've been here, we've wanted to go in the direction where we have competition with EMC in some way. Is there something else out there that can be quoted to us that says that this is the right direction for us to go?
And, someone's saying that we're marketing, I can't remember who said that, we're marketing each year or every other year. That's called competition.
Yeah, that's IMWCA.
Yeah, so, I mean, if.
Of course, nobody wants
trying to find
competition.
Well, that's what we just studied with a water treatment plant versus the Xenia thing.
Right.
Same thing. We're trying to watch out for our neighbors. It's their money. So, I mean, that's the whole reason, and past history, as I mentioned before, that has frustration, but it sounds like there's two players and no more, so.
so we need something.
My goal is to have ICAP be able to quote us, and if they need other requirements in order for them to quote us, then we need to have a service provider that is helping us along the way in getting to where we need to be at so that they will quote us. And so the question is, who is best suited in order to do that? Or is there a pathway for multiple parties to present to us and say, this is how we're going to move forward to get you to your goal?
We have already started to implement safety measures with Janice. We are working to get ourselves to a position where IMWCA will look at us and consider us. So I think if you want to be in a position where you can get a quote from ICAP, then the real issue is addressing the safety culture within the utilities. They have the training. It's very difficult for our employees when someone comes in with a very aggressive and degrading attitude about every move that they make throughout the visit. It's hard not to be offensive.
I've been there. I've been
Yeah.
Yes,
exactly.
there were some personality conflicts throughout the process, but we have, you know, we have several months to work on it, to
Mhm.
show that we are implementing the program. Matt Funk is, I don't know how many hours are in his days, in his universe, everything that he does for the city, but he has put himself forward willing to help implement the safety program with the city. So I think that's really where you need to focus. If they won't quote us because the person who comes out to observe us when we work doesn't like what they see, then we need to work on how we present our safety culture.
So what are we doing?
Well, we need a motion on one or the other. We've gotta pick one tonight, cause our insurance is up April
Yeah.
1st. So. My thing is, I feel stay with who we've got right there, right now for this year. And then where we're gonna start doing the safety, we're giving each of you guys both time, and we relook at it then. That's my theory.
I just feel like we do that every year though.
But we're not coming back and only giving them 2 months this time.
No, I mean
Like
the
we
whole,
have.
I mean the whole ICAP thing. I feel like we say that we're going to do things.
Well, we can't
about-
do nothing with ICAP. This year, they don't want to deal with us.
But they told us that last year as well.
Right.
What's to
So,
say they're gonna deal with us in the future?
That's right.
I'm-
If they
That's my
don't-
point. That's what I'm getting at.
I
is
mean-
it's-
if they don't, they don't.
regardless of
We're
who's
stuck
out
with
here,
EMC.
it's-
I
Right.
mean, we've got 2 choices, ICAP and EMC. So,
If I need to wear day glow, I will.
so that's my feeling. So we'll have more time next year to look at things a lot better.
What's your appetite for trying for us, our business again in the next year if we're not deciding on you now?
I think it's a little hard. I mean, we've been here the past 2 years, so there does reach a point where it has to make sense for us as well. And we also like to partner well with our customers, and so, not by any means am I saying Holmes Murphy in the future won't have an appetite, but I don't know if we would be your strongest player next year, just given the circumstances that, ICAP and IMWCA have seen it from us. I guess ICAP not last year, but this year, and with the direction that they gave us of if they made a broker change and maybe we'd be, willing to look at it again, that's the only hopeful feedback I've gotten from them. So I hear you when you say, you know, well, how do we know if they're gonna look at it? We don't, but I put my eggs in my basket that if you do make a broker change, then you might have a little bit higher of a percentage that they might look at it. So that's not to shift any decision made tonight, but that's where Murphy would stand.
I mean, that is a valid point, you know, I mean, you stick and stay with the tried and true, or you change, you know? I mean, that's the options that we have tonight. Do we change and try? Or do we just keep going down the same road? I mean, it's obvious that ICAP's not looking at us with our current broker, so.
And I'm also looking at money. We're
Yes.
getting a dividend. We won't be getting a dividend.
But in the long run, if we start working with ICAP, you know, they start looking at us and give us a chance
Well, we can do ICAP from them too. We've got it from both.
from both.
We can do ICAP from both. I'm
But they're
not
not-
just sticking with them.
I know,
We
but they're
can
not
do
willing to
ICAP
look
with
at
both.
us with our current one. I mean,
So,
that was said tonight, right? Am I,
Well-
or am I reading wrong?
Was not willing to look because IMWCA was not pleased with the outcome of their visit.
Okay.
it was
So is
IMWCA that was
IMWCA.
not happy,
Okay,
not
okay.
ICAP.
Okay,
But we work very well with ICAP and have a
Okay.
close relationship, working relationship with them.
So they both deal with ICAP.
And I'm actually getting ICAP certified this year, so I'm going to extra classes with ICAP to even build a stronger relationship, so that's a benefit as well.
And Janice, you said that ICAP typically does not insure just the municipal utility part.
That's what I've seen, yes.
And you don't have anybody else like that either, that's just like I mean,
I would say majority of cities, and I brought this up in the first meeting, that it's typically utilities and city together. But when I was discussing ICAP and they knew it was the utilities board, there was not, I'm sure the sentiment is that they would like to have both, but it wasn't like a red light, we can't look at it.
And what's the city doing? Do we not
You
know?
know, you don't want to,
Don't wanna know?
no, you don't, you let them do their own.
Yeah,
They've got more than what we do.
okay.
Because we looked at that, kind of, and it would hurt us more. Ours would go up.
Right.
You mean if we had a joint policy?
Yes.
Okay.
No, look at it.
Yes, if we
Yeah.
had a joint policy, ours would go up higher. So,
I'm looking at it too from an employee's perspective. If we make a change at this point in time, you're changing service providers, you're changing the continuity of the day-to-day work that's happening in the midst of changing out our city administrator, our administrator for our group. I know that's gonna be a difficult thing, or just cause one more thing on the list of things to do and to worry about. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're not wrong.
are you gonna get like Matt?
No, I would love to, just try to keep things as normal as possible till we get the new administrator here.
Get them broke in.
But that will be a fresh perspective for all of us.
I think so.
I'm sure that things are going to change, and I anticipate that it will be positive.
And when we started this process, we didn't know Ash was leaving yet.
Right, we weren't told.
that was October and you guys were here, right?
In October,
Yeah, we didn't get told till January.
She's also saying that it doesn't look viable for them to want to, come back and do that. I mean, that's the other thing you gotta think about. Because you guys came back, someone else came here a year ago?
I thought we didn't,
I don't know if they got that far, I don't know. if
It
we
was
ever got-
more,
on our side, I didn't think we did anything last year.
it was more on the phone.
Okay.
They came one time, it was, what's his name?
Todd Hansen.
Okay, it was him, and then I had a phone conversation with Todd and another guy from Holmes Murphy and the guy from IWC,
Yeah.
or Workman's Comp.
Yep.
There was four guys on there and me.
Yep.
So,
Okay, so just to the,
right,
okay.
The city ever, they didn't do anything, it was just us?
no.
Gotcha.
That's when we decided, where we kinda looked at and, just let the city be their own.
So with the new city administrator and stuff, I mean, I'm willing right now to make the motion to stay with EMC for right now, and if Holmes Murphy wants to come back next year, and, maybe we go about it a little bit different, So I'll make the motion to stay with EMC for right now,
With United Risk.
United Risk.
or United Risk, yeah.
And is that also with increasing the auto deductibles to $2,000?
No, the cyber,
changes.
yes,
Okay,
No changes otherwise?
no changes on the other.
no auto, yes, cyber. And moving to CNA for equipment breakdown?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, you have a motion?
I'll second.
Okay, how you vote? Sherman?
Yes.
Belden?
No.
Herrick?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Avy? Yes. And thank you guys very much.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you
thank you.
very much for all
everything
your
you
hard
have
work.
done. And please, if they will allow you, let's start it again right away.
Yep.
And see what we can do.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, number 13, annual payments to City of Stuart. City Hall Building, $35,000. It's number of payment 18 out of 20. And that's for building this.
Right, right. So I put the number of payments where we're at on there just for your information. There's also the annual payment for the All Saints Edition project. We participated in the electric and the water infrastructure out there. You will notice that Wampold Phase 1 has fallen off. We have finished that. And you may also remember that we agreed to participate in the water main out in Wampold Phase 3. Those payments don't start until next year.
Do we know what those payments are?
$10,250 a year for 20 years.
Okay.
Thanks for the background detail.
You're very welcome.
It's very helpful. I'll make a motion to pay those.
Second it?
Okay, how you vote? Sherman?
Yes.
Belden?
Yes.
Herrick?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Maybe yes. Meter reader software upgrade.
This is just for your information mostly. Pat wanted to make you aware that we have kept our meter reader alive for a very long time. We actually got that right after I started. That's been almost 10 years ago. And we've been purchasing the extended warranties. They have let us know that they're going cloud-based and they're no longer going to support the meter reader that we have. So this is another thing that we're being forced to upgrade. It was considered in next fiscal year's budget.
It's in the budget.
It's in the
So
budget.
you just need,
Yeah, it's approximately $30,000.
okay.
We just need to approve it then?
It's just for your
Oh, just
information.
info,
Yeah,
okay.
when the bill comes to you, then
Okay,
you
gotcha.
can approve
So
that.
if it's an allocation of that, don't we have to approve that? Or just in the bill list, you just order?
We don't,
budget.
we don't have the
Right.
physical quote yet.
Okay.
We will bring that
Okay,
to you for
gotcha.
approval. This was just for your information.
I was just gonna say, if you wanted us to approve it, we wouldn't have to talk about it again. It's on the agenda, you might as well just do
If you
it.
want to, that's fine, sure.
If there's an up to amount that you were comfortable with, of 30,
Let's say 40, just because who
Okay.
knows what they'll spring on us.
I'd make
So,
that motion.
Second it?
Go ahead.
Okay, how you vote? Sherman?
Yes.
Belden?
Yep.
Herrick?
Yep.
Crawford?
Yes.
Amy?
And
Yes.
again, thank you for the background, of why the change is happening, and the equipment and all that.
Okay, number 16, boring machine purchase proposal.
Would you like to talk about it? Or do you want me to do it?
I can talk a little bit about it, or if you have any questions, I can answer them. It's kind of up to you.
So do you have a boring machine, like spec sheets in your pack?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two machines, it's between Vermeer and Ditch Witch. They're both hand loading machines. With the Ditch Witch one, our salesman actually brought one out and set it up over in the field and let us run it and practice it and taught us how to run everything with it. And in my opinion, I really enjoy how it's all set up. And that's the one I really like, and, you know, with the Vermeer, we was able to go over to Coon Valley. They have one that was similar to what we would be getting, but it's a couple years older. So technology's changed a little bit, and it's probably better than it was, but I just wasn't super impressed with it. We, like, either would work, but, like, the specs are very similar on the machines. They can both do about what we would want. It's pretty much,
How many hours are on each of these machines?
they would both be new from the factory.
But they're new.
Oh,
They're
brand
brand,
spanking
yes.
new.
Okay.
Okay,
And Pat's seen these?
Yes.
Okay, which one are you recommending?
the Ditch Witch,
Okay, the 144.
cheaper in the long run.
Well, and then there's pluses, this GPS that goes with that, right? So it would be, there's a page here for, is that a
Yeah, they
GPS
both have
part?
it.
I mean,
They both have one, but I mean, that's in addition to the 144, right?
There are two
Yes.
different prices combined. It's 163,
Okay.
301,
Yeah.
Right.
And this one is cheaper.
do we have a high demand for a boring machine?
If we were to be.
Say that again, Charles? What was your question?
Do we have a high demand for
Oh.
a boring machine?
We're gonna be putting underground electric in.
So the boring machine
Oh,
that,
okay.
that we had broke.
Yeah.
And in order to finish the project, we need another one. I did reach out to the auditor and ask him if we could use the the remaining funds from the underground project, the 2017
Okay.
funds towards it.
Yeah.
And he said, yes, that's very appropriate. So, we have the money, we'll just work it into the budget amendment.
Okay. Outstanding.
What's this other, the second page for the equipment total? Or,
That's the GPS part.
oh, sorry, okay.
That's outside of this, or?
It's in addition to this.
Yeah.
Right, so that's part of this or not?
They,
Or you want to vote?
They're,
It looks like it would be.
You've got the machine and the doodads.
yeah,
Sorry?
so it's like 100 and,
144 for.
for the machine.
Yeah, and then you add these together.
Yes,
Right.
but if you look at this one, it's the same way.
Yeah.
The
it's
mirror's
got
the
two.
same way.
What's the total number? It's one,
One
plus-
is,
it's one plus the other one, right?
163
One's-
versus 177.
Okay, yeah, so it's, yeah, I didn't know if you meant that some, it was included in the other, and I didn't see it, so. okay.
Well, for me, they're close enough that, I mean, I would go with what the guys
Yeah,
are gonna use
he's
the machine
one- right.
or want.
He's gonna be the
let
one
the guy
running it.
choose
Yep.
they
I
use
guess,
it.
I would make the motion to go with the ditch witch.
Second?
Okay, how do you vote? Sherman?
Yes.
Belden?
Yep.
Harry?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Avy? Yes.
Thank you.
I could explain, what that other page was, since, for the GPS.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with the boring machine, you have a locator, which is what was on the other page. And that actually tells you where the head of your rod is underground, so you can steer it like where you would like to go. So if you start over here and you want to be over here, you have someone walk with it and continuously locate the head. That way you can steer it to the location you want to end at, and it tells you all the depths and such.
Gotcha.
So when you buy one, you have to have the other one with it. That way you can't have one without the other, or else you'd be
Yeah, there's a
completely
sense,
blind.
Yeah.
there's a sensor in the duck bill.
That's
what they
like,
call it, there's a sensor in the duck bill. That's how they control it, is by the duck bill.
Okay.
that's
And that
like,
sensor, you gotta have the locator to follow that sensor.
Gotcha.
I watched them do that in my yard.
my
That's
theory
what I was asking
was
about.
always, oh, it's easy, you know, they just go dig a line.
Yeah.
But when they
No.
did our underground, oh no, it's a lot more than that, a
Yeah.
lot more.
Thank you
I,
very much.
I know this thing is,
Thank you.
I know this thing is new and pretty, but I don't wanna see you guys joyriding on this thing around town.
Okay, let's get through the report so we can go home and have supper.
Yes.
So, right now, you have $7.68 million in the bank, you're in great shape. Next page is the year-to-date, you started with 7.35 million, ended with 7.68 million, so you're up 336,000. Next page shows you where you're at in your budget, your total budget is 3.475 million, you have spent 2.374 million, you still have 1.1 million remaining. As far as the month to date, you started at 7.63 million, ended at 7.68 million, so you're up almost 46,000. The reports, without mentioning any names, the first one is the delinquent account report. There is one, it shows at the top of the first page. Flip through to the next report is the delinquent accounts paid in full. There is one showing towards the bottom of the page. Flip through to the next report is the payment agreement report. There are 5 new payment agreement accounts as marked. Next report is payment agreements paid in full. There are 5 that have been paid in full. 2 are showing on page 1. The other 3 are showing on page 2. Next report is budget billing. There are no changes. Next report is deceased or bankrupt. There are no changes. And next report is the total collected by the state offset program. There are no changes. And then the department monthly report is requested.
Make a motion to accept?
We don't have to,
Oh, okay.
like it or not. We
Getting
adjourn.
getting too mixed up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming.